everybody, it's your boy Marcus Norman from Gentleman Style Podcast Show, your favorite gentleman. And today I have a very, very special guest, Mr. Christian Espinosa. He is the founder and CEO of Alpine Security, a cybersecurity engineer. He's a certified high-performance coach, a professor, and a lover of heavy metal music and spicy food. He's also an Air Force veteran. Thank you for your service and dedication to our country. And an Ironman triathlete. He's used to value being the smartest guy in the room, only to realize that his greatest contribution to the fight against cybercrime is his ability to bring awareness to the issues through effective communication. Mr. Christian is a speaker, a coach, a trainer in the secure methodology. He's helping make the smartest people in the room the best leaders in the field. And today we have him on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. Help me welcome to the stage, Mr. Christian Espinosa. Thank you, sir. Welcome to Gentleman Style Podcast Show.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus. I appreciate the awesome introduction there.
Absolutely, absolutely. You are phenomenal. One more round of applause, y'all. Sir, thank you for joining us in Gentleman Style Podcast Show. Sir, diving right in, one of my very favorite questions that I have to ask very successful people like yourself is, what's a successful habit that you do every single day, day in, day out, that really sets the tone for your day? Is it yoga? It could be meditation. It could be a passage that you read, a book that you read or reading, because leaders are readers. But what's something that you do every day that really highlights your day?
There are probably, I would say, three main things. The first is I do what's called the 5-minute journal. I talk about that in my book. So in the morning, I list out 3 things I'm grateful for and 3 things that will make the day, awesome as well. So part of that helps set the intention for the day, because I think it's important to show up with intention versus just showing up. When we just show up, we kind of leave ourselves to haphazard results. But if we show up in a conversation or in a meeting or for whatever we're doing with some intention behind it and a desired outcome, it's going to more likely lead to success. So I do that. And then I also block out my time and plan my day with blocks of time. So I'm working on the things that are important to me versus just sort of like letting the day get filled with everybody else's demands.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, sir, you're brilliant. Your bio is extensive. I could read that all day long. You could do anything that you set your mind to. Who is someone that you admired or inspired you to get into cybersecurity?
Well, I started cybersecurity when I first joined the Air Force, which was in 1993, before it really became popular. So there was not like an inspiration to join cybersecurity. It's just sort of like, I did IT in the military, but we had to keep like secret and stuff. So we had a cybersecurity component to it. And then I knew, like, when I got out of the military, I knew that's the direction we were headed. Like, information security and cybersecurity was important. So I focused on that with my career.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And who's someone that you admire? They could be living or deceased. Who's someone that you admire or hold in high admiration?
Yeah, there's a lot of people. One of the people I talk about in my book is David Goggins. I read his book, Can't Hurt Me. And I've been following David Goggins for a long time, actually, because I do ultra runs, and he did Badwater a long time ago, which is a 135-mile run from Death Valley to Mount Whitney. And so I've been following him for a long time. When his book came out, I listened to it on Audible, and I thought it was awesome. So he's been a big inspiration. And sometimes when I think things are difficult, I think back to that book and some of the things he said in the book. So yeah, it's and I even talk about it in my book. I talk about the cookie jar concept from David Goggins.
I love David Goggins. If you all have no idea what you're talking about, that book, David Goggins in general, he's intense. He's a Navy SEAL. It's written it's written by a Navy SEAL. He is intense, but he is so powerful. So thank you for that, Mr. Christian. That's huge. That book, I read that book, and it impacted me. It changed a lot of my mindset. Just the trials and tribulations that he went through in his life, in his career, even before his career, growing up, he talks about that, and that was powerful. So great book. Thank you for that. Huge, huge, huge. So speaking of books, you brought this up, but I want to bring it up. Your book. What inspired you to write your book, The Smartest Person in the Room: The Root Cause and New Solution for Cybersecurity?
I was running my own company. I started Alpine Security in 2014, and around 2015, like midway through the year, I was in a meeting getting debriefed by my team about how what's called a penetration test is like ethical hacking, how a review session with a client. And one of my engineers kept telling me in the meeting that the client just didn't get it, meaning the client didn't understand what we were telling them. And for some reason, it struck me very differently during that debrief, because I'd heard that my entire career, that the clients don't get it, management is doesn't understand, the users are stupid. I'd heard like variations of that. And I realized, though, that since this was my company, I funded it, I wanted it to be successful, that my clients need to get it. If they don't get it, we're not going to improve their cybersecurity. They're not going to understand the true risk. And I realized, if I look back on my entire career, that this was a common problem. And it's a problem not just in my industry, it's a problem in any industry. People want to be significant. And in my industry, cybersecurity, people tend to be significant or feel significant by being smarter than somebody else. So the way they maintain an identity is by talking over people's heads, by making people feel less than they should, and all these things that sort of manifest and are holding our industry back. And because of my journey with my company and wanting to solve that problem, I worked on solving the problem and I fixed it in my company. And what worked ultimately ended up becoming the book. Because I think this is a massive thing we need to fix in the industry. We have this like high IQ culture, but it's acceptable to have a low EQ. Like you can be super smart, but be horrible with people. And we've sort of allowed this culture to exist and created this problem ourselves.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Love that. Love that. Mr. Christian Espinosa, y'all, the incredible, the man, the myth, the legend. We have one quick commercial break from our show sponsors, Manscaped. Stay tuned, stay with us, stay engaged. We'll be right back.
Support for Gentleman Style Podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers you precision engineering tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off free worldwide shipping with the code GENTSTYLE at manscaped.com.
Hey y'all, we are back to Gentleman Style Podcast Show, and we have the incredible Mr. Christian Espinosa. And this man is impactful, he's powerful, and he just explained to us, and he just broke it down, some of his routine habits that really set the tone for his day. And he also told us what inspired the creation, the mindset behind his book. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that here on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And so, Mr. Christian, you talked about this book was inspired to bring about change and to bring about that shift in mindset, because you noticed the trend throughout your extensive career that people were almost this kind of subdivision kind of grew out of having a high IQ, but having no emotional intelligence along the way. And so I'm going to bring it up here on a big screen, but can you share some nuggets? What are people going to get out of this book when they read it? What are some of the things they're going to learn? Can you share some tea, any tea at all from the book, from the passages that people are going to get out of it?
Yeah, in the book, I cover what I call a secure methodology. It's 7 steps. So I try to simplify and make it tangible for you to become a better person. One of the concepts is I talk about neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, a fair amount. And one of the concepts in there is that we have these blind spots and these patterns. Our brain is like a computer, basically, and we have these programs that run in our brain. And often we don't know that. So if somebody says something a specific way, we kind of go on autopilot because it kicks off that program. And before we even realize it, we've executed the whole program, which may not be getting us the results we want or enhancing the relationship we're in. So the first step I have in my methodology is about awareness, and it talks about recognizing those patterns and being able to form new patterns, because an old pattern or program that's in your brain is like a super highway. It'll run very naturally. It takes a lot of effort to break that and to form a new pattern. But once you have that awareness and realize that your brain has neuroplasticity, it's just like a muscle. You can build new habits and build new pathways in your brain. Once you realize that, you can shift your behavior from things that don't serve you to things that do serve you. So that's just a little bit of scratching the surface there.
Love that. That's major. What are some of you said you noticed something else. What are some of the biggest challenges facing cybersecurity today and cybersecurity professionals in the industry today?
One of the biggest challenges is there's this supposedly skills shortage. We hear about all the time in the news that, we have like 3 million open cybersecurity jobs. But part of the problem is there's these gatekeepers in the industry that are keeping people from coming into the industry. We tend to think everyone needs a 4-year degree. Everyone needs to have all these certifications. And that is not required for an entry-level position. So we're creating the problem ourselves by not, as employers, taking the ownership on looking at an alternative like source of candidates for our company. There are many transitioning veterans, for instance, that have 20 years of military experience, but just because they don't have a college degree or certification doesn't mean they can't help with cybersecurity. A lot of the concepts about risk and military defense, those concepts apply to cybersecurity as well. We just need to look elsewhere. Otherwise, we're never gonna win the war, because we're always gonna have this shortage.
That makes sense. And so you're saying the shortage does exist, but the stigma of getting into that barrier to entry is overplayed, or is it over exonerated? It's over simple. Do I need a degree? Is a military veteran able to just go in with his background in cybersecurity from the military, able to just cross over into civilian sector, or that's not the case?
Yeah, so I think the shortage is largely made up because, and this ties to the concepts I talk about in the book. Like if I have a 4-year degree, and let's say I have got several cybersecurity certifications, if I hire someone to do the job I was previously doing that doesn't have the degree and doesn't have the certifications, I'm sort of devaluing my own degree. And this is the mindset a lot of people have. They feel like, well, if I hire someone to do my job and they don't have a degree, then my degree is worth less. So this ego and this inflation of our sense of how great we are because we have these credentials is creating that barrier, that stigma, as you mentioned. Yeah.
Makes sense. Mr. Christian Espinosa, y'all, this man is incredible, and he's changing the mindsets to shift. Look, notice the big level thinking on him. This is high level thinking that he's bringing to us today. And so I'm bringing the book link up on the stage. Check out the book. The book is actually also affordable. And so not only is it of great value and great context, and you're going to get a great roundabout, but I had to bring that up because I'm thinking a book like this is going to cost $50, $60. This book is actually really, really affordable for the amount of value that it's worth. So check that out. Check him out. This is huge. One more round of applause. It's Christian Espinosa here on the Gentleman Style Podcast stage. So, Mr. Christian, you talk about something that's very unique, and it's called your 7-step secure methodology. Can you talk about that a little bit? Can you explain to us what that is and how that works?
Yeah, the 7 steps, what I call the secure methodology, is designed to help leaders and anyone really. I think as a leader, you have to be able to lead yourself before you can lead other people. So I sort of geared my book towards leaders, but anyone can benefit from the book. The 7 steps are what culminated out of what worked in my company to help my highly technical people develop those EQ skills and better interpersonal skills. The first step is awareness. So I believe we have to have awareness of ourselves and how we impact the world and then we can have awareness of other people as well. And that's where I talk about the blind spots and that program that runs in your brain automatically that we're unaware of a lot of times. And I talk about the concept of informed realism, which is like knowing the truth. Because if you understand the baseline truth, you can make change, versus uninformed optimism, which is how a lot of people live their lives. And then the second step is mindset in the book. And that's the second step of the secure methodology. I talk about a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And a lot of us think everything we do in life, like our traits, our actions, are hardwired. That's a fixed mindset. The reality is we can create new patterns in our brain. We can learn new things if we adopt a growth mindset. And then the third step is about acknowledgement. So this is one of the things I've struggled with my entire life, basically. I finished an Ironman triathlon or something that is pretty hard, and I would never like acknowledge myself. I'd just be sort of like looking forward to the next thing and never like take a moment and say, you know what, I worked really hard to be able to complete this, 140.6 miles or whatever. And then I realized, though, as a leader, and just as a person in general, if I have a hard time acknowledging myself, I'm probably not going to be that great acknowledging my partner, my spouse, my kids, the people I work with. So it's important to like be able to kind of take a step back and realize the importance of acknowledgement there. And then the fourth step is communication. This is a massive topic, but one of the concepts about communication that I always think about is the meaning of communication is the response you get. And a lot of people forget that. So especially in cybersecurity, they'll keep talking over somebody's head and then get frustrated with the other person for not understanding what what was being communicated. Whereas the ownership of the communication should be directed back at you, and you're responsible for changing how you communicate with someone so they understand what you're trying to relay to them. And this could be with anybody, your spouse, your children. If we just say the same thing over and over and over, and the person is not understanding, then that's a problem with how we communicate. And then the fifth step is monotasking. Monotasking is the opposite of multitasking. Multitasking is like, antiquated and ridiculous. I don't know why we still talk about multitasking, but with monotasking, it has two main purposes. One of them is increased productivity. So we focus on one thing at a time. So I talked about earlier, you asked me about how I start my day. I plan my day with blocks of time. So during that 1 hour block, I only do one thing. That means if I'm writing a report, I only write the report. I don't check my email. I don't, do text messages. I don't do Slack. I don't do all these other things that just interrupt me. So focused time can make you much more productive. And then the second benefit of monotasking is presence. If I'm in a meeting with somebody and I am focused on them, I'm going to listen better, and I'm going to, have a better relationship with them and a better interaction versus, if I'm on my cell phone while I'm trying to talk to someone. You see this all the time. If you go to dinner, you see people sitting with each other, but they're both on their phone. That's very disrespectful, and it doesn't serve as a meaningful conversation. So monotasking is important. And then the sixth step is empathy. So as a leader, and as a human in general, we need to be empathetic. And I think the media, everything today sort of like is very good at pointing out our differences, whereas we all have the human, condition in common. We've all had, issues growing up. We've all had financial troubles. Most of us, we've got a lot of things in common, and it's important to focus on our similarities. And it's easier to be empathetic when we realize we have much more in common than everyone else tries to point out about how different we are. We're all humans. We have the same challenges with relationships and a lot of other things. And then the seventh step is Kaizen. Kaizen is it's a Japanese word. It means constant and never-ending improvement. So with any of those steps I talked about already, and the secure methodology in general, just making progress is important. It's not like you're going to flip a switch and become an expert communicator, or flip a switch and go from multitasking to monotasking. We need to keep perspective that mastery is a journey. So it's going to take time. And as long as we're making progress over that time, that's okay. In some cases, we may actually get worse. If we're trying to learn something new, you may actually get worse for a little while and go in a valley. But as long as you're trending upward and you stick with it, that's what's important.
Woo! Thank you, Mr. Christian. Thank you for bringing that down so delicately. And I pray that no one took offense. I hope I spelled that right. I didn't have the opportunity to spell Kaizen, but that was powerful. Empathy is huge, because I feel like that when you said that, it stuck out to me, because there are a lot, you said it earlier, that high IQ of over speaking people, downgrading people, making people feel less than. People with high empathy don't have that tool in their tool belt in as far as it goes with leadership. So thank you for breaking that down. That's huge. We have one more quick commercial break. You guys stay tuned for Mr. Christian Espinosa. This man is powerful. You won't want to miss 1 second of this incredible speaker. Stay tuned. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Good day, podcast listeners. This is your boy, Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. I wanted to let you guys know that we will be rolling out a new feature and adding a join sponsor button next to the subscriber button here at the bottom of your screen. Once you click the button, it will display 3 membership levels: Gentleman Gentry, which is our entry level; Duke Duchess, which is our season level; and the Emperor and Empress, which is our most sophisticated level, which you will receive unique perks and benefits at each differing level and gain access to our community tab. We will also be sharing polls, upcoming events, and interviews, as well as receive feedback from our sponsors directly. Your support helps me find new and exciting guests to bring to the stage live. Well, in order to get the higher end speakers, it requires, you guessed it, money. So thank you for tuning in to my channel. And if becoming a sponsor sounds good to you, then select the join button below and choose your desired sponsor level. Let's continue to grow and serve the future of generations of men and women to come. Love you guys. Bye. Hey everybody, we are back to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. We have the incredible Mr. Christian Espinosa, and he just broke down his 7 steps in the secure methodology that he teaches, he coaches to. He's a certified speaker, trainer, coach, and mentor that teaches these steps, and they were powerful. If you missed that, go back, scroll back, and check him out. Those were very powerful as we grow as leaders, as we grow as entrepreneurs, and we grow in business. Mr. Christian, sir, I have to ask, you did something that is scary to me, and it terrifies me every single day. You built this company, your cybersecurity company, and then you sold it. Tell us, what is the strategy behind that sale? And I mean, did you go in with the intention to sell this cybersecurity money? And how did that go? That's scary for me. Most people don't build businesses to sell them. What was that like? And did you learn anything coming out of it?
Well, I started the company in 2014. I was doing freelance work before that for about 5 years, and I kind of got bored with the freelance work. I felt like I wasn't contributing. It kind of became status quo to me. I was making a fair amount of money, but I felt like I wanted to do something bigger. So that's why I started the company. I didn't really put a lot of thought into it, to be honest. I just said, freelance work is kind of boring. The solopreneur work I was doing is a little bit boring for me. So I'm going to build a business, hire people, try to shift the status quo in the cybersecurity industry. And through this exercise, it'll force me to grow as an individual, because I'm a believer that a business is a reflection of the owner and the CEO of the business. So when I did all that, I grossly underestimated how difficult it would be. I thought it'd be cake. I thought it'd be simple, but it was like the most difficult thing I've ever done was growing a business, finding clients, figuring out what sales means, figuring out what marketing means, doing the accounting, doing the work myself, dealing with the high IQ, low EQ people, dealing with frustrated clients, figuring out cash flow. All these things are very challenging. And I got to a point in the business where it was very stressful for a while. I invested my own money in the business. I didn't have investors. So my life savings effectively was in the business. And there were times that, I was like one receivable away from a client from going bankrupt, basically. I wasn't going to be able to make payroll if I didn't receive that cash, that check. But we were growing gradually. And my decision to sell came because as we were growing, it was like this long slog up a hill. Basically, I had to generate enough revenue to hire another person, then generate some more revenue to hire another person. And it was like this constant, slow going. So I thought, you know what? I need to find a way to get an infusion of cash here, either through a private equity investor or maybe sell the business. And I decided that I was going to get a private equity investor. So I went to this meeting. It's like a mastermind meeting. I mentioned that was my intention. And some guy pulled me aside and said, why are you trying to do that? And I said, I've got, these problems I'm trying to solve. And he said, well, it sounds like you need to really do what's called a one-page strategic plan for your business and really focus on a lot of key things for your business first. So I did that. And then that sort of set me up to be able to sell the business. And then I had an offer. I've had several offers, but this one, which I ended up going with, came out of the blue through a mutual acquaintance. And a lot of things sort of lined up with this offer. I kind of believe in synchronicity a little bit, but the company that bought my company is called Sentinel. Cerberus is a three-headed dog that supposedly guards the gates of hell. But
they bought your company?
They bought my company, yeah. But in college, I was in a squadron. I went to the Air Force Academy. It's a military school. And my squadron was called Cerberus, the three-headed dog. And I have a patent on a cybersecurity attack platform called Cerberus. So there's several things that kind of aligned here. So I thought maybe this is a message here that I need to pay attention to. So I decided to scale that joining a larger company and selling my company would be the thing to do. And it wasn't easy, but I was also getting a little bit burned out of doing everything myself because I didn't have a partner. It was just me. And it's a lot of stress financially.
Absolutely. What would you do differently coming out of that? What would you learn? Would you repeat the same process? Would you change some things? Would you do the same thing? Any thoughts, schools of thoughts out of that sale?
If I start another business, I will focus on marketing first and messaging and having a good understanding of our ideal client and the clients we want to repel. I'm a believer that you should attract the people you want to work with and repel the ones you don't want to work with. When I started my business, I didn't even know what marketing was. So it was this journey to realize the importance of marketing. And I would start with the intention. If I were to build another business and sell it, I would start it with that intention. So it's a different perspective when you're thinking about your business from somebody else's eyes that's made by your business. You kind of get everything lined up a little bit differently because you realize someone else may have to look at all this stuff. So it really forces you to kind of get all your ducks in a row a lot earlier.
Makes sense. For the people, the young men and women who are interested out in the audience, who may be interested in partnering along, you have a school that teaches those 7 steps of secure methodology. How can people connect with that school, or what advice or tips would you give to that young boy or that young girl who may be interested in getting into cybersecurity? Any words of advice there?
Yeah, so the class, I have a class on the secure methodology. I'm still actually developing it. It's almost done. It'll be on my website, christianespinosa.com. If somebody wants to get into cybersecurity, I think it's important to understand what you're getting into. That there's this kind of a idea that a lot of people have about cybersecurity that's all about hacking stuff. That's one small sliver of cybersecurity. There's auditing, there's forensics, there's all these different components. And based on your personality type, some of this stuff may be extremely boring to you. So I recommend like going to 16personalities.com, for instance, and taking it's free. You could take a Myers-Briggs assessment test. It only takes like 20 minutes. And that'll give you a pretty good idea of what you would find interesting and what, your behavior traits are and what motivates you. Like for me, if I went into cybersecurity and I got stuck doing auditing, I would go crazy because I can't stand stuff like auditing. But to other people, you too? Yeah. So once you know your personality, you realize like this is probably not a good career fit for me. And I think it's important early on to realize what things appeal to you, because a lot of people just go into a career because it may make them a fair amount of money or maybe quote stable, but they're miserable in it because they don't realize like what actually makes them tick. So I'm a big fan of those assessment type exams. Same thing in cybersecurity. If you were going to like penetration testing, it sounds sexy. You see the hacker movies, somebody like in 3 minutes, like types a few things on the keyboard and breaks into, the bank and steals all the money. It's really not like that in real life.
It's not?
It's not. No, it's like banging your head against the wall like 1,000 times. And on the 1,001 time you get in, so it's very frustrating. So if you can't handle that frustration, then that's not the thing for you either. So that, again, just go back to that personality test and get in tune with who you are and what sort of things you want to do with your life. And this doesn't just apply to cybersecurity; it applies to really any career. And I think it's important. A lot of people want to go after a career that is quote stable, but I think it's important to go after something you're passionate about that makes you fulfilled versus stable. The stable route may be okay for a while, but then you're gonna get worn down and have that midlife crisis, like a lot of people, because you've done what you don't want to do for half your life. So it's better at the onset to align with what you want to do with your career and in general.
Love it. Sir, what is the best way for someone to grow with you? What is the best way to someone to connect with you? Thank you for that. That makes sense, because I've been on the fence about cybersecurity and just where to go and where to start. And I've always struggled with the schools of thought behind it. Like, is it the certifications or is it the education? Going into the IT, do I need to go into IT first, then specialize into cybersecurity, or is it something that can be streamlined and I can go directly into? So, thank you for breaking that down.
Yeah, no problem.
What are some ways that people can connect with you, grow with you, and get a copy of that book?
They can go to my website. It's christianespinosa.com. My book is on Amazon, and you can find me on, my book is called The Smartest Person in the Room. And you can find me on pretty much any social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook as well.
Powerful. Mr. Christian, I wanted to say thank you for taking the time out of your busy day today to give back and to educate us on Gentleman Style Podcast Show. This has been absolutely phenomenal, sir. You are a true inspiration. You are changing the landscape in just a phenomenal speaker in so many different ways. 9/11 was kind of like the scariest it wasn't a cyber attack, but 9/11 kind of showed people that terrorism is real. And I've heard in different schools of thought that the next terrorist attack won't be, we just experienced it with the oil and the gas prices, the attack on that gas company that cut off supply to the East Coast. And so that's kind of the signs that we need more experts like you in the field helping us get to a better place and get to a better understanding of how important this position is. Get that book, The Smartest Person in the Room, on Amazon. Very affordable, sir. Any final words or tips or nuggets that you wanted to share to my audience that I didn't ask you that you wanted to share?
I think it's important to start your day with that gratitude, as I mentioned, and try to connect with your authentic self. A lot of us, and I talk about this in my book, want to feel significant, So we have built this identity of ourselves, but it's possible to shift your identity to one that serves you. And a lot of people think this is just what I believe, but remember that lie is part of belief. It's possible to shift your beliefs.
Love it. Thank you, sir. Thank you. That's mindset, y'all. That's mindset shifting. That's what it takes. It starts here first. Thank you, Mr. Christian. I appreciate you so much. And thank you all, my audience, for tuning into the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. I hope this message has served you. I hope this has been impactful. And I hope this helps you, takes you to another level. Get a copy of that book. Let's grow, let's learn, let's share, and let's connect with and do better in life overall. Thank you, sir.
Awesome.
Like I end every show, take care of your family, take care of your friends, and take care of business. This is Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show and Mr. Christian Espinosa, the cybersecurity guru, signing off. Love you guys.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you, sir. God bless y'all.